So there's 3 different macronutrients that are typically considered when it comes to diet. And if you've lived long enough, you've probably seen a diet for eliminating one of those macronutrients.
At least.
At least. So you have your carbohydrates, which is typically the bad macronutrient if you look at most diet plans. You have your fats, which has been the bad in probably the 90s and the 80s.
And now it's the good.
And now it's the good, yeah. And you also have your proteins. And so it's important to understand what each of these foods do for your body. And that each food, both carbohydrates, both fats, both protein, they all are beneficial to your body. Mm-hmm. And so the biggest thing is you want a good balance of all of them, right? So what our carbohydrates are, those are your breads, your sweet potatoes, your crackers, like just different types of starch foods. Yeah, the carbohydrates really are foods that give you energy. They provide very quick energy typically, and there is importance in having them in moderation, as we'll talk about in the glycemic index, talking a little bit. But when it comes to carbohydrates, you're really looking for foods that are more not simple carbohydrates, but more complex carbohydrates. That would be things that will raise your blood sugar a little less quickly. And that's why we'll talk about the glycemic index, and we'll get that to a little bit. But fats would be your nuts, your avocado, which is by far my favorite. Oils, those are all good. And those are really good fats. Now, of course, you don't want to just have fats in your diet.
Right.
But those are really good fats to have. Where the fats you would want to avoid is saturated fat. Things like you would find in if you're just eating very fatty meat.
A lot of fast food.
A lot of fast food has a lot of saturated fats.
Mm-hmm.
Things like trans fats you don't really hear about anymore because they've pretty much been banned, or you get a big fine if you do include them in your food. And then finally our proteins. And proteins are really important. It's important that you're getting enough protein in your diet because it does help in us rebuilding our muscles and our connective tissues that help make our body strong, particularly as you're starting a new strengthening program, to make sure that you're not just breaking down the muscles when you're working out, but also building them back up. You want to make sure you're getting enough protein in your diet.
And a lot of people will name off different things for the different categories, and if you're a picky eater, they'll say, I don't eat protein because I don't like the taste of it. There is some form of all 3 types of nutrients that you can find something that you like.
Yeah.
So definitely be encouraged to look more into that and to find that balanced diet.